And to the face-off, we have Master Pupil and we have Viral. Gentlemen, let's start off with the question of the day, Master Pupil. Who's your favorite guy to watch? And I'm going to say this for both of you. The question of the day, you can't choose someone from your own team. Who's your favorite player to watch in the WGLNA? Did you already choose someone on your team?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to go with Ox because I was going to say Photo because of his ability to play heavy tanks. I'm a huge heavy tank player, as we all know, so I like to improve, and watching Photo and Ox, honestly, they're both tied for me. Watching them both play just, it gets me excited to play heavy tanks. It makes me want to improve. They're honestly the top in WGLNA when it comes to heavy tank play, and, I just want to strive to get to their level.
Dang, that's a strong endorsement coming from you, sir. Okay, well, Viral, do you have, who's your pick for your top person to watch in the WGL?
Honestly, I haven't been, out of current players.
You can throw back.
One of my favorite ones was actually Soviet. I always thought, he did very well in his 1390 back with Negatron.
Soviet.
Back in the first few seasons.
Oh, Soviet. We miss Kirill. Yeah, he's gone away.
Back in the Fulcrum and Fnatic days, a long time ago.
Oh, he was a machine. Exactly. We all strive to kind of be at his level. That's a good choice. A bit of a throwback, too.
Yep. All right, Master Pupil. So we were just talking before this face-off about you guys have brought Tigers back in the lineup, try to find your rhythm that you once had that you guys have kind of lost. Why are you looking to Tigers instead of another option, I guess?
Well, I mean, in the beginning of the season, we felt as if, we had a better amount of player skill without Tigers. No offense to him. He's more of a caller than anything, which is really good. And he helped us out in the first season, but it just didn't feel like, because he didn't play all of last season, that he would be ready for this season. And that's been proven wrong. And I think it's good that we've got him in our lineup now, because we're going back to having a dedicated and consistent caller who can decide on calls for us. Because we tried the whole entire team, calling and trying to make suggestions, and it's not working out, and it's led us to a rough start.
You're finding you really want that anchor, someone to just focus around, and someone to have that final word when it comes to making a decision.
Yeah. Plus, the synergy between the team. First season, it's almost as if it's the exact same team again. So that could benefit.
Okay.
All right, and then Viral, you guys, once again, you keep switching your lineup. I don't think you've gone one match day to another match day with the same starting 7. Is today going to be any different?
Yeah, today we plan on just sticking with 7 people, trying to work our way through that, and hopefully that works out for us tonight. For the biggest thing for our team is we have a bunch of people who are kind of specialists in different tanks. We always look at how we play Blitz. Blitz always plays a grill for us, and he did really well in it, but we just wanted to try and, instead of switching everyone around, just trying to come in with the starting 7 tonight. So we have a bunch of specialists, and then we have some people who have been, to say, inconsistent at times. Sometimes they'll come out and play one round really good, and then they might come out and play the next round poorly. So we're just still trying to, I guess you could say, find our identity as a team and find our starting 7.
All right, well, Viral, good luck to you against eClipse. eClipse sounds like they're getting their stuff together, and they're going to really give you guys a hard time. Final scoreline. I'm guessing this one's going to be a close one if Valence can manage to put anything up. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the face-off. We will see you on the battlefield.
Yep, and I've talked about it before, especially last season, about how that community calling style, it can work if you put in the time, but that is one of those things that it takes season after season, consistent practice after consistent practice to really get down. And when we did listen-ins with eClipse earlier in the season, you could kind of tell, one player would say, let's do this, and they would say, no, let's do that. And it would lead to them just kind of hesitating, sitting in a bad position for way too long. So I think bringing Tigers back in, it's a short-term fix, but I think they need to definitely keep practicing at it.
You can't just bring him back into the lineup and expect everything is going to be all hunky-dory. Now, looking at the maps, we have Cliff to start off the series, Himmelsdorf following Prok, Ghost Town, and then just sandwich it, another Cliff as the tiebreaker.
Well, and Cliff is a map that Eclipse struggled on, especially against top tier on Tuesday. They dropped both rounds on it. They haven't looked good on it all season. So seeing it appear right now against Valence, who really haven't played Cliff at all, that one definitely catches my eye. And then Himmelsdorf is Eclipse's best map win rate wise, but it is also Valence's favorite map so far this season.
Yeah.
They feel that is their strongest map. So right out of the gate, we're seeing 2 maps that I think could really set the tone for the whole series.
Yeah, Cliff giving possibly something to Valence. If that works out, where we get an early lead by Valence, that could be what Valence is looking for. If they can't get a nice lead, or at least 1 or 2 battles in the first, I say 4, so that's on Cliff and then moving on to Himmelsdorf. If we don't see 2 wins from Valence, I think it quickly goes right into Eclipse, like a 5-2, 5-3.
Well, and another thing to keep in mind is against top tier, Eclipse was down 4-2 and won 3 straight rounds to win in overtime.
Exactly. The Eclipse is not a team that is going to lose momentum and just lose out altogether. They're the kind of team that's going to get some momentum, and they're going to completely bulldoze their opponent.
Yep. Well, we are ready for our first battle of the evening, so let's see what happens.
Cliff, the most dynamic map in the league. Battles on Cliff always turn into desperate double-edged fights. Teams start from the same spots as they do in standard battles. The first base is located near the defender's spawn point, and the second is at the bottom of the hill. Sometimes teams split their forces and send several tanks through the 1-2 line to the left of the small hill, but usually both teams play at the center. The attacking team can send one of the tanks up to the lighthouse or behind it. Fast and quick-firing vehicles are better suited for this map, mainly medium tanks, including tanks equipped with autoloaders.
And here we go with battle number 1, Eclipse coming in with 5 bat chats, an STRV 103B, and an RU-251. Valence, 4 bat chats, 5 bat chats, a TVP, and a T-49.
All right, and that T-49 is going to be played by Viral, who we just saw on the face-off. I was hearing, was he playing from PAX?
Something along those lines.
Yeah,
I'm not positive.
He was. We were hearing before the broadcast that he's actually playing away from home, and so props to him for showing up to a match on a foreign network for himself. He's going to be going on to the low ground. Well, it's going to be Bat Chat versus Bat Chat in the middle of the map. Scouts will play it out in the low ground. We'll have to return to that one later. But a blind shot by Viral towards Dark God Zim. That was fairly close, and actually, I think Viral's going to move out in the open after that one. May take a shot from Dark God.
T1 Diabetic making his way towards the hill. We'll see him do the climb here along the side of the hill and see if he can get up on top. Because once he is up on top of that hill in the S-Tank, that's going to be Eclipse, can basically shut down the whole map.
Exactly. So now we've actually... We'll see if shots are fired. Viral's spotted, though. He takes fire from Tigers from the backfield, actually. Nice shot, nice coverage. I think we had Viral going to try and spot T1, and I think that actually forces T1 to drop off the hill. He's going to jump.
Struggling with that climb, the S-Tank. The climb is definitely easier in a faster tank. It can be done. We've seen it done in an E5. Last season, we watched Canadian Impact drive an E5 up that same go ramp, but it's a little bit tricky because it relies a lot on terrain resistance and raw momentum.
Yeah, and I think it's also possible, tell me if I'm wrong, but after spotting the T-49, T1 might have decided to actually not continue the jump and bail out, although he could have just missed it a moment ago. It's hard to tell.
I was looking. He definitely missed it the first time, and this time he's going to miss it again.
It's so risky, but nope, not quite.
Couldn't get along.
That is hard to make. I can see why that's difficult for an S-Tank. Well, we'll have to return to him in a moment. Right now, we've got moves coming out of Valence. They're shifting tanks from the west back to the northwest, now back to the northeast. They're just doing a little rotation. It seems like they're anxious, is what I'm getting as kind of their current state of mind. They seem just not quite at ease, not willing to sit still, trying to move around, maybe catch something, and that's
Viral taking another shot over in that T-49,
and maybe one more. He's caught out in the open, and there are angles on him. Will we see any lasers? No one's looking quite at him right now. He seems to have found himself in a safe spot. But this T-49 has been getting spotted a lot. Viral has not had a good time scouting on Cliff today.
Even his teammates say that Viral tends to have has a tendency anyways to YOLO a little bit, get too aggressive.
It can pay off, but certainly you get your highs and your lows. Now, Fulcris going and playing it a little risky. He's going to be taken down by 1163, losing most of his hit points just to get a little peeking, and it doesn't look like he spots almost anything at all. That's not good for Valence. They need to keep as many tanks healthy as possible, but it's not over or anything. They can just rotate Fulcris into the backfield where he can provide cover fire and put G-Forcer right up back where Fulcris was a moment ago.
Yeah. Tigers working the ridge opposite of G-Forcer. Both spotting each other, but Tigers deciding to back off. Right now, they do finally have the S-Tank up on top of the hill. But Static up there getting some shots as well as the Batchat sitting back at A5, making it difficult for him to work.
We'll have to see what happens next. It's going to be up to Eclipse. What's the next big move? Because that S-Tank is trying, but it looks like Spooky's able to connect shells, deal damage just fine. No real issues with that. So, does the S-Tank stay up here? Does he leave? Because it doesn't seem like T1's having a very good time.
The reason he's not having a very good time is because the S-Tank is a tank where its armor relies on it keeping guns directly in front of it. The problem is its side armor is extremely thin, and if you look at the angles, look at how Valence are playing this. They have guns all the way over to the 1 line, they have guns on the 5 line, up at A5 as well, and then directly in front of them, closer to the 7-8. And so what it does is it makes it extremely hard for T1 Diabetic to keep all the guns right in front of them. So at this point, leaving him up here is fine, but the rest of these Batchats that we see down here in the low field need to make some sort of play to open up the map. The biggest problem that's going to happen there, though, is T1 Diabetic's going to be left alone, say they start working over towards that 1-2 line. So they need to find a way to make some sort of play, but not have him isolated where he can easily be overmatched and go down.
Exactly. So now we do see that little bit of a move, an attempt by Eclipse to open up the map. Dark God Zim covering while Master Pupil and Tigers approach from the 1-2 line. They're going to make their way up a ramp, and they will be now west of the positions out of Valence. This is a dangerous spot.
T1 Diabetic taking a lot of damage.
And he's going to be forced back. 1 shell left until he's dead. 217 hit points, which means it is a very appropriate time for tanks from Eclipse to push out. But it's not going to work out because the cover fire is there. And a full pen into Master Pupil by the T49 of Viral. There's the payoff. Finally making his tank work. And Eclipse loses a huge chunk of health just to try and jockey for position. 1 shell goes into Viral. It's not going to finish him off. And, well, looks like Eclipse is going to have to figure out a new plan.
This is actually the map with the worst defensive win rate in the whole league right now.
Doesn't mean it's not, Viral goes down. Nice shot by Tigers just on the fly. It didn't look like he even got to fully aim that one.
So my point with that being said is Valence are actually holding on pretty well right now. They've done a lot of damage, and the only thing they've lost, really, is Viral and a couple shots to Fulcrus.
Fair enough. But, look at this. Look at this. We've got Dark God Zim in the background while we have a pressure on top of the hill. So 2 major moves happening right now on either side of the map. We'll see if Dark God Zim's able to put pressure on, distract, because Eclipse needs something. They need someone to help him out, because T1 is not in a happy place. Vetro's been pushed back down, and Exo's trying to come out and help, but right now Valence is going to be able to posture up, take the hill away from Eclipse, and Eclipse is watching the first battle slip away.
Dark God Zim ends up getting lit up by Urtai, and he goes down.
That's another bad one for Eclipse. They didn't need that. Solid by Valence, keeping the coverage there. We do need to see something from Eclipse in order for them to make a way in this. Valence, though, their defensive perimeter has held strong.
And Vetro looks like he's about to make a play. He's getting aggressive towards Zone Delta, trying to find a shot on that TVP turret. TVP turret not very well armored. Can be penned by a regular APCR Batchat shell.
And you see photo finish. Photo finish and the low ground might be coming around. This could spell an Eclipse attack, and it looks like Tigers and Master Pupil will move in at the same time. So we're going to see all at once, everyone from Eclipse move out and focus fire on 1 or 2 of these exposed tanks from Valence. That's what I'm seeing. Do you think anything else could be going on? I see Photo now starting to move out to the west.
Valence are up by about 1,000 HP. They realize that they're in a good position. And I think they realize that they don't really have to move right now. They can hold this crossfire. The times where it's dangerous to hold a crossfire and rely on that being your only defense and not having a secondary plan is when you're even on HP or you're down on HP. That's when you need to start making a play, because if you already have lost HP, it's not going to take too much more for their team to keep finding shots, to find picks, and to find isolations. And as I say that, it's going to be Eclipse that make the first move.
Yep, and that's going to be the press. Exo, photo finish right up the middle. They're going to find cover so that Spooky, Urtai, and Fulcrus will have trouble getting their own return fire, and there's going to be the focus. G-Force are taking the first shots, but Exo's taking way more damage to start this, and he goes down in exchange for Zone Delta.
And that's going to be Valence, I think, picking this up. There's 3 guns left alive. One of them, T1 Diabetic, on 217 HP.
Yep, now Urtai backs off, gets Master Pupil, not quite able to get the kill. And a number of tanks from Valence are left alive, while Eclipse is forced to lose tanks altogether. Let's jump and find the last 2 tanks of Eclipse. Master Pupil is south of the lighthouse, so he's split from Tigers. Tigers is left alive a little ways away, and actually an awkward position for him. He's he's not going to be able to support Master Pupil, and it's not going to go the other way. Don't think. With 1 minute and 20 seconds, I don't think eClipse has any options left on this battle. I think this is a solid hold, good defense by Valence, didn't make any huge mistakes, didn't get overly aggressive. eClipse tried something, but Valence, their players were on point.
And the tracking shot onto Tigers there from Spooky. Spooky still sitting up at A6, fires off shots, should get the kill here onto Tigers. And now he's spotted, and Master Pupil's putting in a shot into him. Spooky kind of knows where he's sitting, so he's trying to line up a blind shot.
He has a vague idea, but Master Pupil understands that this isn't really a fight to stick around for, and he's going to go for the reload. Now, he is dropping into the low ground, a defilade to the east of the cap. And from here, he should be able to avoid getting spotted, but there he goes. He flips it around. Good play there. I have to appreciate Master Pupil, the way he's trying to clutch this one. You can see just those little details with the way that he's driving his tank, using the clutch braking, turn himself around, and he's going to have to fight against Fulcrus, but he's not going to be able to take any more damage, and that's going to be it. Valence picks up battle number 1.
And Valence showing that promise that we've talked about so far this season. Defense was a little bit too passive for my liking. However, they made it work because the Eclipse were a little bit sloppy with their peeking. They gave a lot of HP. That S-Tank was pretty effectively countered, I'd say, by Valence.
I don't know if I'd say countered. I agree. I agree with what you're going for. It's maybe not countered. Maybe it just wasn't the appropriate choice to put on top of the lighthouse there, because we saw how it started taking fire. It's not the kind of tank that when you put it on top of the lighthouse, that the angles that you're going to receive fire are you get me? Sorry. When you talked about it in the battle, during the battle, the S-Tank and the way the front arm was working, you referenced the fact that you pointed in one direction and you expect fire to come from that direction. Any other direction fire comes from, you're not really going to be able to bounce
It's going to pen.
Yeah, exactly. So on top of the lighthouse, there are way too many angles. Your opponents, their default positions, someone's going to be able to get shots on you most of the time.
Yeah, well, the thing with that is we have seen it work up on top of the tank. That's the tank, that is.
Yes.
But what has to happen is the fight has to start elsewhere, and it can't be the tank at the center of attention. You do not want to rely on that armor at all, even though the front armor is good, and it's where you want tanks to be shooting you if they're going to shoot at you.
Yeah.
If the option is to not be shot at, period, sometimes that's the better play.
Yeah, the S-Tank is a tank destroyer. It's a support tank in this environment more than it is anything else, you know? That's what it's about. It's supposed to sit in the backfield, maybe the second, and do that. And we saw an attempt by Eclipse. Now, referencing back to what happened early in the battle, I don't want to harp too much and say that not being able to get up there onto the backside earlier, that T1 may have wasted an opportunity, but I think that it would have helped, and we'll never quite know what would have happened had Eclipse gotten their S-Tank onto the hill a little bit sooner. That could have panned out much better. But what we can say is Eclipse was just poking every little angle and direction that they could, but Valence, you can see their responses were appropriate. They didn't let their opponents get too far away. They chased them up when they could. And Spooky,
one of the top fantasy picks for Valence on the season so far, showing exactly why that is. 3,500 damage and 2 kills, putting up 64 fantasy points.
Exactly. Right behind him, you got Vetro. I'm glad I picked him today. G-Forcer is always a good heavy tank player, and it's always a nice feeling, a nice sight to see him put up top damage in a medium.
Yep. Well, he's one of those players that can play other tanks.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just he's best when he's in, say, a 215B or a 113 or an IS-7. You can, if you pay attention to him, how he positions. I think he's right up there with Photo Finish and Ox Mathis, like Master People was saying.
Yeah, and I always like to say that heavy tank players make good medium tank players when it's only medium tanks in the battlefield, because they know how to play their tank a little bit better to be annoying sometimes when it's like heavy versus medium and you put a heavy tanker like Photo Finish or G-Forcer in a bat chat. They know exactly how to be as annoying or as difficult as possible when they're going up against another heavy player.
They've seen the things that are effective against them. They know what mediums can do to really make a heavy tank player's life hard.
Exactly. And so that's one of the little dynamics. I always notice, like, I come from scouting. When I would play an artillery piece, I always felt like I was a better artillery player or a better tank destroyer player or a better heavy tank player when I understood the dynamics or the impact that the other role would have on me and be able to kind of flip that one over. Now, we are getting ready for battle number 2. We're going to swap sides, and on this time, it's going to be Eclipse's turn to defend. Valence is going to have to attack. And you mentioned earlier, that this is not this map isn't panning out to be as defensive-sided. So do you think this is a chance for Valence to go up 2-0?
Well, I certainly think so, especially as this is one of the hardest maps to defend in the league right now. Looking at the lineups, eClipse, 5 Batchets, a TVP, and a Udis. We've seen the Udis used by eClipse already on a different map, or in a previous series, excuse me. Valence coming in with a Kronwagen, 4 Batchets, a TVP, and an M40-43. So opting for the Tier 8 artillery, something that we've seen a lot out of Apex so far this season, but Valence maybe trying to copy a strat here.
Possibly. We'll have to see how that one pans out, because Artie on this map, as the attacker, it can work out and it's great, or it can completely flop because you just can't land a shell to save your life because just nothing works out, you know? You have those battles.
If I had to take a guess based upon this lineup, what's going to happen? They're going to leave Fulcrus down in K1, and they're going to start working up towards the hill and around that 9-0 line. What they can use that Kronwagen for is they can put him over in the low ground along the 9 line and also on the cap, and be near impenetrable working over there and really be the tank that kind of works up there, gets the cap pressure, works that turret, works that area. And if you can successfully maintain cap pressure as the attacking side on that 2 cap, you can open up a lot of shots for that artillery.
Possibly. But that does seem like a very precarious position to put yourself in. And you have to make a lot of headway first. You're going to have to eliminate a number of tanks from eClipse on the defender side before you can hope to succeed there, right? It's going
to be very systematic. You don't necessarily have to kill anything, but you have to make sure that you clear area by area as you work your way over there, which is what we're seeing right now. They have static all the way down at H1. They have a Batchat sitting at G3, and then they have a couple of Batchats trying to work up on the hill right now, and the Kronwagen and one more Batchat just lurking in the backfield right now.
Oh, Tiger's dodging a shell right there. Nicely played.
Another thing that we could see, which it looks like what we're going to actually see out of the Kronwagen, is he's going to do the same climb we just watched T1 Diabetic do in the S-Tank and get that Kronwagen up on top of the hill, because you have to remember, the Kronwagen's strength, or its turret armor, and it has 12 degrees of gun depression. 12 degrees.
Yeah, that actually is insane. I actually really enjoyed testing out the Kronwagen. It just feels so flexible. I can play wherever I want. It doesn't matter what the terrain is. I can just kind of maneuver and stay safe no matter what the situation is.
We talk a lot about how autoloaders aren't heavy tanks, despite being a heavy tank class like the T-57 and 50B. The Kronwagen is the one of the 3 Tier 10 autoloaders that I maintain is still a heavy tank. It does what heavy tanks should. It has armor. It can sustain in a brawl, especially if it's hull down.
It can deliberately be the tank that you put out in front. Now, out in front currently is Spooky, who's managed to avoid taking all but 339 damage, dodging 2, bouncing 1, and one of them even going into his tracks. He got lucky. He could have taken 4 shells from his TVP, lost half of his hit points, and that would have been horrible.
And look who's playing that TVP. That's Photo Finish, notably a heavy tank player.
Notably. And, well, he's going to be playing that support role this time. And after pressuring Spooky like he just did, that's going to tell Valence, well, let's back off. Maybe that pressure you were talking about at the beginning, nice call, by the way, isn't going to be possible yet. Because we haven't destroyed any tanks, all of the cover is there. Photo Finish is that crucial tank as well. Because that TVP, if he's not in the back of the map covering the 2 cap, it is certainly easier to get your tanks into the east side, into that low ground, put the Kronwagen in its position, and then start pressuring cap. And
the Kronwagen can really work as, say, a linchpin in a lot of strats. They could also use this to make some sort of play up the 3 line. Use the Kronwagen to hold the middle, shoot towards the TVP, or the Batchat at D5 if they can figure out he's there. And then when the tanks push around, they can get up against that wall along the D line there, and they can shoot towards the hill, and they can use the Kronwagen to hold that angle because he won't go down. He's not susceptible to that crossfire because he has that turret armor.
Exactly. So now I want to shift over and kind of just jump a different topic. Let's talk about Artie for 2 seconds, just 2. We've got cover fire right now coming in from Fulcrus. He's looking currently in Echo 2, trying to see if a passive scout or anyone is going to fire on his tanks that are currently moving from the south into the west, similar to what we saw last battle with eClipse. Almost the same approach, trying to just quickly pop out, see if you can take a tank down, leave. And after this would be probably the move preceding that 2 cap pressure in the east you were talking about.
And what Viral has actually done, instead of doing the climb with the Kronwagen, he's just gone up the normal way, but he did it the smart way where he got his turret armor in the hull down, stared at that back corner, and then flipped his tank around while keeping his turret facing that TVP where he's likely sitting, and then just backed up the hill. And now he's going to be up here scot-free in the Kronwagen. That's not something we can see done by, say, a Batchat, because the armor's just too soft. He'll take shots from that TVP and take damage.
Yeah, and contrasting what we saw last battle with an S-tank trying to get onto the top of the hill, we now have a Kronwagen. So, two tanks that are part of the newer lines are still getting... People are still feeling them out as far as where they fit in the league and how to deploy them properly. But I think this is going to be successful because the turret armor is so good, along with arty cover and some Batchats and a TVP in the far west. I'm pretty sure Tigers is going to go down fairly soon.
Well, and not only do they have the turret armor, which we see here coming into play as he bounces a shot from photo finish, he has 12 degrees of gun depression. It's more than any other tank in the game.
Meaning, as soon as there's a tank in view for him, he can aim at it, right?
Unless, except for a very high elevation. Does not have the highest gun elevation. Has the greatest gun depression, but not the elevation.
Well, that won't matter then. So great for this. He doesn't have to look up at anything. In fact, photo finish couldn't possibly get to a higher elevation than he is right now.
Well, especially because Viral has the highest point on the map.
Yes. He is king of the rock. And he'll just sit on top.
Just looking for that shot. He has an idea where Photo is, but he's not spotted yet, so he just let some blind shots off, but now he has to reload.
Do you know if you can spot with binoculars from where Viral is? It's not a very common position to actually get to spot anything out of, but I wonder if binos you can reach.
It looks like it would be just a little bit too far because it's diagonally across those boxes.
Yeah, you might just barely be out of the circle. Oh, and Viral's, whoa, he's going up and over. That's... I'm not sure how I feel about this yet.
Look at remember, turret armor. We've talked a lot about it this game, but look at it. He's hold down. He has the gun depression.
And he proxy spots Vetro.
And he has the turret armor, so it doesn't matter that Photo Finish can see him because he can't pen him.
Yeah, but what if Viral has to now look to his left? Because there's going to be a number of targets further to his left. He's going to have to turn even more so west if he wants to target those, which means he'll open the side.
If that's what happens, though, Photo Finish is going to have a decision to make. Does he shoot at the Kronwagen, or does he shoot at the tanks pushing up the 3 line? He only has 1 clip, 4 shots, 1,200 damage. Even if he puts them all into Viral, it's not going to be enough to kill him. Viral's still going to be able to get off his full clip.
And against Viral, of course, this is the tank he's most likely to bounce 1 or 2, as opposed to a Batchat that would be...
It would take a misplay by Viral to take more than 1 shot of damage.
Okay. And we'll say with the little RNG, maybe a second one. But what is going on right now with Valence? They're moving on from the southwest, I'm noticing.
And they're actually spotted as they leave. Nope, actually, Static and G-Forcer got out. Zone Delta got spotted and is staying up on top. I don't think that Eclipse know that he's completely alone right now.
I don't think they realize that as well, but they don't have a proper response ready anyway. They couldn't really send in the hit squad to take him out. Not reasonably, at least, because you know that there's an Artie, right? You know Fulcrus is to the southwest. You don't want to risk taking an M4043 shell off chance losing one of your bats in a 2v1. And then on top of that, what if one of these Batchats that's left Zone Delta all alone, if they just looped back around, they could provide cover from the south. They just have to get into the improper elevation, right? Because once they get into, the grid is about Gulf 5. About Gulf 5, there's some high ground back there. Batchats could get into position and support Zone Delta possibly before he would go down. So that's a nice little thing to think about. He's perfectly safe for the most part. A little risky to leave him alone, but I guess evidence of this battle shows that it's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, definitely. Photo Finish just getting down right now, trying to get a little bit closer, maybe trying to group up with the rest of the tanks to make a play.
And we'll see this is the play. Zone Delta's moved up, cover fire onto Exo. He's not going to have many places to run, and he should go down shortly, but Static is taking a lot of damage from the hill.
And Spooky goes down to T1 Diabetic, but now G-Forcer's coming in to get T1 Diabetic.
Vetro's down. That's going to be 1-for-1. Tier 8's down for both sides, but Tigers is there he goes. That's Urtai getting the kill. Urtai's going to be able to move forward, and that's going to be hill control and left behind right now. For Valence, Eclipse is up on hit points. Valence is down on tanks and hit points now. And this could be neck and neck, but very likely Eclipse should be able to hold this one.
Exo has 37 HP right now, and G-Forcer's out of shots. G-Forcer's just trying to go for the ram. Exo hugging the building, abusing the port.
Nope, he's gone. He knows. Just leave. Don't stick around. Don't play around. Someone's going to reload first, and that could be your tank instead of getting a crucial
And Static
kill.
actually picks up the kill, but G-Forcer didn't have the whole traverse to get around the building there to get that final ram onto Exo.
And a nice shot. Photo finish, able to take out Static. He is going to take enough damage in return, and with 50 seconds left, Valence has 4 tanks to kill, with 4 tanks alive on their own, but way less hit points. And GeForce is going to pay dearly in order to move forward. One more shell should finish him off. T1 should have it, and he does.
Viral's going to chase Master Pupil, and Viral actually misses the shot, and Pupil picks up the kill.
Nice play by Eclipse. We heard in the interview before the match, Eclipse was talking about how they could rely on individual skill of their players, and that's what they are hoping to do in the season. Add Tigers back into the mix, and, well, you just saw it right there. Just 1v1s across the board, going in the favor of Eclipse. Playing smarter, playing a little tighter. Valence, while they are an experienced team, they know how to play together, not able to stand up to Eclipse. And that's going to be battle number 2. 1-1.
I do like the idea there out of Valence. They worked the hill, they got the Kronwagen up there, but the secondary play after that, they couldn't really find a way to break away at this defense. They couldn't find any isolations. They never spotted the Udis, who is passive, over on the 2 line. It really kind of limited their options because they were too afraid to move up, because the second they were spotted around that corner, that could have been photo finish or other Batchets that would have had shots onto them.
Exactly. So the thing to pay attention to with that battle is there was a lot of back and forth. Both teams were kind of just feeling each other out. It felt kind of like a high school dance where no one was really ready to do anything at all except maybe
no one wants to hit the dance floor.
No one wanted to hit the dance floor, and then once the party was just about over, everyone felt like now we have to. There's not going to be enough time. Let's just do this, okay? I don't care what happens. We have to go for it. And in the post game, Master Pupil, photo finish, throwing out the top stats, Viral in that Kronwagen. I think we can say the Kronwagen was a strong choice here.
Yeah, definitely, but the rest of the team didn't play into it so much, or Eclipse didn't play into it, so only able to do 2100. That's really only a clip and a half. It has 1600 alpha in 1 clip, 4 shots, so really only getting 5 connections there.
Yeah, and I think we should also note that a lot of bat chats get wasted on Cliff. You don't get to see every bat chat deal plenty of damage. Usually 1 or 2 of those guys is going to be forced to go down without dealing any. Look at Vetro and Spooky. Spooky's a top damage dealer. He didn't mess up. He just was taken down.
Well, and that's why the meta on Cliff has evolved to what it is right now with all of these auto litters, because when you have, say, 4 or 5 bat chats looking at the same angle, if they all shoot at once, that's 2,000 damage done. That's a single bat chat deleted off the field, and then a split second later, 2.5 seconds to be precise, all the bat chats are loaded again, and now they can delete another tank. And so when you have these brawls start off like that, the first tank over normally eats a full volley, and it's that second tank over where the team kind of loses the focus and may split fire a little bit, where they have a little bit longer to survive.
Yeah, I always kind of think that maybe going with that many bat chats, though, is a little overkill, because you can keep volleying and volleying and volleying, but you could stick a Russian medium in there, and you wouldn't fall too far behind on your alpha, because you only have to have X amount of damage, and then you have to figure out your variance, right? It's like, okay, I need to do 2,000 damage in a volley. How many tanks can do that? How many tanks can get on target in the amount of time that we need to? All of these little details, right? So I think that maybe 5 bat chats, while it's really cool, and I love playing the bat chat, it's a great tank, maybe you should add some other flavors in there.
Well, the biggest problem with doing that, though, is say you bring in a 140, it creates a point of isolation for the other team to pick out, all right, do we just ignore the 140, go for the bat chats and take them down and let that 140 get shots off?
Yeah.
Or do you wait for those bat chats to unload its clip, and then instead of chasing down the reloading bat chats, you focus out that 140 right then and there because you know he has shots still?
All right, well, that's enough from us for now. We're going to get into battle number 3.
Himmelsdorf, a small city map. The teams start the battle in opposite corners. Both bases are located close to each other, but in a way that you can't stay on the defensive all the time. The main attack routes pass through the hill, the alley and the railroad, but in general, the attack can be successfully executed through any part of the map. Heavy tanks and tank destroyers with powerful guns run the show here. However, a lot depends on the mobile light tanks.
And here we go into battle number 3. Eclipse coming in with a 113, 250Bs, an IS-4, an IS-7, a Batchat, and a 1390. Valence, 113, a 50B, a 215B, a Kronwagen, a Batchat, a 4005 Stage 2, and a 1390. Just picking one of everything out of their garage, readying it up, and seeing what they can throw together almost.
Hey, this is a solid strat. Kronwagen's going to be able to play the holdouts. We'll have to see if Zone Delta goes anywhere where that matters. 50B's mobile a little bit more than the Kronwagen, so you have an option for for very specific tasks for everyone to fulfill, should it come up. And then I always love seeing the 4005. I think it's a great tank. The more I see it on the battlefield, the more I actually am buying into it. Because I used to think the turret was a little too big and it's too easy of a target, but I kind of forgot. It hits so hard, does that even matter?
If you can play it as a second-line support tank, you can be the tank that the team isn't focusing on, and you have a team around you to make it work.
Oh no,
it can do a
Ertai.
lot.
Ertai is moving out, trying to get an opening scout run, and T has not spotted T1. I love this from T1 Diabetic. This is great routing from him. He has picked the exact specific timing in order to spot out Ertai, and now, he barely misses out on some damage. I really was hoping for that one, because that would have been amazing for eClipse. I have to give a ton of credit to T1 for picking the direction and timing he did. He got the perfect jump, and as he drove, he was very specific about his movements. And because of that, what happened for him is he was able to avoid detection until he was not but 100 meters from Ertai. And now, Ertai is pinned.
But T1 Diabetic, well, he's still spotted, is going to drive away.
And he gets one into him, that's 413. Can he get a second? See, Ertai's actually, you could say, is playing the role of a distraction right now, or maybe even bait, because you look at the positions from our blue team. We've got...
Well, we have his own Delta, who's already worked up this 8-line, and they know that Master Pupil has been playing this position a lot, it seems, and they're working on a way just to isolate him. The Kronwagen's coming in to work the Delta line, the Batchat and the 4005 are both up on the hill.
Yeah, but G-Forcer was waiting for T1, while Ertai was trying to bait him into their position. There was an AMX 50B from Fulcrus, now going to the hill. He was ready to cover and take down that 50B should he get a little too aggressive. So Valence hoping, playing right there and setting up for a trap. Yes, eClipse didn't take it, but you do have to note when they go for these little plays that...
Oh, this play is risky, leaving this 113 on the G line for Valence. If they figure out he's alone, he could get isolated. I like what Valence did. They went over here, they showed their hand. They said, look, we have a bunch of heavy tanks over here, and we're going to sit here. And so once they got unspotted, they backed their tanks out, and they just left this 113, who they still know he's there. They don't know where the rest of the heavy tanks for Valence are. They don't know that they have left yet. So this 113 could potentially be holding up this whole rotation for eClipse right now, because they have no idea where the rest of Valence are.
That is an interesting note, because there hasn't been as much spotting as you would think.
See,
but that
now,
move, you see, look at all the tanks from eClipse now moving to the south on the mini-map, while at the same time this little engagement's happening in the middle. Also,
this is risky. This is over. This is over. Valence are about to lose 2 tanks for basically nothing.
Oh, no. Are they going to notice in time? They don't see it on the mini-map.
They don't see it. I think this is just a good read from eClipse.
Yeah.
I don't think they had the intel. I think this is a blind rotation, but it may work out for them.
I think it's about to work out as Exo and Tigers are getting into position. T1 Diabetic, Dark God Zim, and Vetro are all just pinching on the position of G-Forcer. And I like this. Look, G-Forcer has nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. He needs to take some damage. Oh, and a nice counterplay by Spooky. He gets out of his pinched position, is able to put pressure onto Dark God Zim and make himself a difficult target. And will there be a response?
They're going to find the isolation, and this is over for Valence. Unless they can get on cap and cap out before these tanks can get back, this is over.
Spooky, though, keeps himself alive. Gotta stay alive. That's all you need to do, and you'll be annoying enough. And this could, if Spooky lives much longer, actually, this could end up turning into the favor of Valence if Spooky can be a good enough distraction. But then in the north now, Viral, Fulcrus, Ertai, they've taken control. So 3 tanks up there with the FV 4005.
But now in the south, it looks like Exo's getting ready to come in.
And this is important. Exo's the 50B for his team. He's a major damage dealer. Since he's out of the fight dealing with Spooky right now, who misses a shot that really he could have gotten.
He gets tracked, and Exo takes him down.
Yes, but now Exo's about 30 seconds out from supporting the rest of his team. Valence needs to take that into account and figure out their response, because Ertai's about to go down. Not long now.
The one tank that could turn this around right now is Static in this 4005, but this is over. This is way too much for them to try to turn around.
This is done now. For a moment, it seemed like there was a little bit of hope, but Valence wasn't prepped. They didn't have the tanks or the positions. They had taken too much damage, and that one's going to be over for them. I got to say, solid defense by eClipse. I like the aggressive opening.
It was a great read by Tigers, I'm pretty sure, at this point, because I didn't really see a whole lot of information gathered by eClipse. It looked like they read it. Tigers essentially went, look, it looks like they're doing this. They're trying to trick us into staying down here. We have this Kronwagen over here up in the north. So he kind of looked at it, and he said, look, they've probably pulled the rest of these tanks back. We have all our guns over here. Worst comes to worst, this is going to be an even brawl. Best case, this 113 really is left alone. We're going to push in with 6 guns. We're going to have the overmatch, and we're going to take down tanks down for free, which is exactly what they did. And that timing just... I almost feel bad for Valence because I liked seeing that play. I like it. The problem is it is very risky, and the exact thing that makes it risky is what backfired right there.
Exactly. So you look back, let's jump to the first part of the battle, where we even saw T1 Diabetic. I liked the way he was moving down the 1-2 line. What he does is he takes a very specific approach and decides, what I'm going to do is I'm going to counter this position. There's going to be a scout in the very far southwest who's going to be waiting for me to go along the route that I am. I've got the timing. I've got the position. So he jumps down there and gets Ertai to and kind of pressures Ertai, allowing the rest of his tanks to move up. That's the important part. Ertai doesn't leave. He's a little stubborn there, and I have to give him credit because on one hand, that gave Valence time to get to the other side of the map and take some control there. On the other, Valence might have been a little bit too stubborn. They dug their heels in when they didn't need to, and leaving Ertai in the south along with G-Forcer and Spooky, that's the thing we're talking about that backfired. It seems like it's good to leave 2 tanks, heavy tanks down there to defend and hold things off.
It looked like G was getting ready to leave and join the rest of the tanks up the 8 line, which I would have liked that play a little bit better, just leaving Spooky down there as the distraction.
Yeah.
But leaving 2 down there, and with eClipse having a majority of their tanks on that 1-2 line, it really backfired there. Because you lose 1 tier 10, you can still turn it around, especially if you can find a trade, which they could have on photo finish left up in the north.
Exactly.
And instead, they lost 2 tanks. They only had 4 left to recover, plus a broken 1390 who had been shot up already.
Yeah. It's not a strong play for Valence. It's something that, in hindsight, does not look as good as it did when at face value. Now let's look at the stats.
T1 Diabetic, 3,500 damage, 2 kills, 86 fantasy points. Not bad there.
Paying attention to that one. T1's not been putting up the most points, but maybe tonight's his night.
Well, look at Spooky. Second game on the second page. That's unusual for him.
He is having a rough night right now on Valence, but this is eClipse. eClipse has shown up and is proving that they are actually... they've improved quite a bit since the past few weeks that we've seen them. They've struggled up until now, but Tigers after last Tuesday, and now here on Himmelsdorf for battle number 4. eClipse is going to be on defense, offense. And this is going to be their chance to just run away with the match. I say a win here puts them up 3-1, and that's a lot of momentum. Valence is going to struggle to come back on Prokhorovka after this.
As we start battle number 4, eClipse coming in with 2 50Bs, 2 IS-7s, a Batchat, a 4005 Stage 2, and an RU-251. Meanwhile, Valence, a 113, a 50B, an E3, a 4005, a Batchat, an AMX 5120, and an Emil 2.
And I like this. T1's going to one of the opening positions for 4005. Oh, never mind. I'm wrong. I thought he was going to go counter out the position that often IS-7s
Oh, is Dark God, Zim, and Viral about to run into each other?
Yeah, he is. Although that Batchat is spotted. So.
And RU used the handbrake turn and is getting out of there because he knows that Viral was about to cut him off.
Yeah, although Viral actually stopped short as well, realizing maybe I shouldn't go in so far.
Well, he was looking to get shots on that opening scout run. That's a very common scout run on attack defend.
But he was spotted. He realized the risk is there. If there's a tank back at the church in the southeast, then you're about to walk into fire.
Exactly, but right here, the opening scout run is around that loop, and look at this. It looks like Valence are actually stacking up for a south play of their own. But as I was saying, a really common opening scout run on attack defend has always been, since the early days, is moving a light tank down that K line, then cutting them up at K2 and going up into that little bend right there. And that's exactly where Valence had Viral waiting, was for an scout tank to make that scout run, and then Valence would have been able to get a shot or 2 into him or even track him and finish him off.
Yeah, and the reason that you'll counter that out is because the return run on that scouting run, the way that you have to leave after you spot tanks, is actually forward of the position that you approach from. So you approach from the backfield along the K line, like you're saying, the farthest south road on the map, and then you actually loop back to the north, exposing yourself more, which means if you get spotted, you're in a worse position when you try to leave. So anyway, right now we're actually moving on to the fight happening on cap. Spooky taking about half his hit points in damage as eClipse has placed themselves on their opponent's cap, while Valence left it open. They might as well have invited eClipse in and put cookies down because there was nothing there to stop him. It's
But
completely
look
free.
at this swarm for Valence coming in the south right now. They have the isolation on Master Pupil. They're going to go around. Viral's coming in behind over the rubble. They should be able to take down Master Pupil quickly. They need to focus fire. Urtai's switching targets and going for the cap, shooting at Vetro. Fulcrus finally takes down Master Pupil, but Vetro returns and picks up the kill on Fulcrus.
And now the damage is way in the favor of Eclipse. 8,000, 7,000 in damage coming in from both sides. As the cap is going to be reset, Eclipse is going to be forced off of the cap, though. And they're going to have to find something else to do because they realize...
Viral and G-Force are about to get caught out. G realizes it. He's getting away. Viral needs to get out of there quickly because Dark God Zim's about to catch him.
And he does. Stops out in the open, fires, but takes all of his hit points. He finds out that was not such a smart play for him as everyone was looking his way. 50Bs do show up right afterwards, and they should be...
And Eclipse might be losing this game because they're going to push down. G-Force are already ready on the angle from these 50Bs.
Nice.
They have the cap under control. They have the E3 up there with the Emil too.
And this
is Eclipse in a very tough situation all of a sudden.
Yep. They've been able to disengage, so both teams can group back up. They can find their positions. They can decide what their next move is. And they have 6 minutes to think about it. They got aggressive at the start. And Valence, of course, responded as well. Forced an early engagement, and now there's time to take a step back. Both teams have the ability to win here and decide what's your next play. Valence, look at their positions. Let's talk about them, their options, where they're going to go.
They're setting up in a, I don't want to say standard defense because they have a lot of tanks committed to this 5-line, but they realize that their guns need to be together. They have an extra gun that Eclipse don't have alive right now despite them being basically even on HP. Yeah. So Spooky and Viral are both one-shotters. So it's going to really be up to Static and G-Forcer to carry a bulk of the workload right now.
Yeah, and Viral, I'm going to jump and follow him on the side of Valence. He's going to be an important scout for his team. Even though he's at a one-shot like you talked about, he's the most mobile. If he can find someone and catch them off guard, find the turret facing the wrong direction, maybe just get a flank at the perfect time, the damage potential from him is will probably tip the scales, you know? If we can get a 4,005 to actually get a shot on target, this late in the game, that percentage of hit points is a whole fifth, possibly. He can do a fifth of their health.
It could be half of what Valence of what Eclipse has almost. It could be 2,000 if he high rolls.
Fair enough. Almost half. So the same thing, though, goes for Eclipse and their positions. Let's take a look at where they are right now. Because
they back their 4,005 up onto the hill, south end of the church. They have the I-7 sitting here in the courtyard. And the 50Bs have moved to different angles of the main courtyard. There are really 4 main avenues of approach in the courtyard. If you look down at the minimap, you have the D line, you have the 3 line straight down, then you have the G line, which is currently occupied by the 50B of Vetro, and then you have Exo playing the 8 line, commonly referred to as the banana. They're just sitting here, they're just holding this crossfire, and they're trying to figure out what to do. And they're going to start shifting these 50Bs over towards the 2 line. And they have 2 options over there. They can maybe try to get some cap pressure.
Oh, no, I see what's going to happen. IS-7, spotting with photo finish, right? And then cover fire with 50Bs. We've got Vetro farther to the west. Exo, that's who it is. I thought he was going to go around to the south and try and snipe out the 113 in FV position. Although it doesn't look like the 113 is going to play it risky, if you get me.
Well, what can happen here is there's a building right here on this little corner cap. If they can get a 50B to loop down and get out here, or even come up and work right here against this building, they can get some cap pressure, and what's going to happen is this rotate has to come out from Eclipse. They have to have tanks leave through here.
Oh, shots fired. Exo is moving up on the 3 line, actually. This is called the road of, this is where heavy tanks go to die, usually.
And the 50Bs, they're going to close, and they're going to try to get up here. The biggest thing is they crossed the 5-line gap right through here where Static was, but now he's rotated all the way over here, and this negates what I was just worried about, was baiting these tanks into rotating out this way and letting the 4005 have just shots on the back of these tanks' engine decks, which would have been pretty much guaranteed penetrations.
It would have been. But now, the situation that Eclipse is getting themselves into, they're going to be pressuring the 5 line, the middle road, where we saw Valence tanks grouped up earlier. Although, as you can see from the minimap, and as you can see from the layout on the battlefield, most of those tanks have moved.
G-Forcer doesn't know this is coming. Photo finish, and the 50Bs are pushing straight into the 5 line. Spooky's out of position. Static's out of position. Zone Delta and Viral all cannot save G-Forcer. This is about to be a tank down for Valence.
Possibly. But look, G-Forcer's found himself some cover. Vetro is going to be forced to move out. And that's actually going to pull the trigger as Exo is exposed out in the open. He's going to take pause. No, he's able to avoid actually taking any fire whatsoever. That's great for Eclipse. They really needed that. But Static's moving in, and the FV 4005 may be about to delete something. We'll see in a moment. Static decides actually to hold back instead of moving forward.
Remember, it's Valence on defense right now. They don't have to force anything. The biggest problem they have right now is Spooky is completely isolated from everyone else.
Yes, and he's squaring off against T1 Diabetic. And T1 spots Spooky, and he's going to go for... I'm not sure exactly if he's going to go for... Oh, no, it looks like the fight's going to happen to the south right now. Damage being dealt onto... What was that? That was
He only
Static.
does 700 damage. He doesn't get the penetration with the Hesh Shell. And now it's going to be up to Zone Delta to pick up both of these kills. Vetro's going to push around. He's going to start dumping his clip into Static. And Exo's actually going to come in and finish him off.
No, that's good for Eclipse. Eclipse is slowly dragging this one back into their favor, but there's 2 minutes left. Spooky needs to stay alive. Not going to be an option probably because the last possible tank, his last little battle buddy, is now gone. And, well, he's got 299 hit points. The FV 4005 can literally cross
Spooky?
the distance from where he is right now. That T1 Diabetic, he could just move forward and take every shell that Spooky could possibly fire, still live, and get the kill. It shouldn't be possible.
If Spooky wants to make a last stand of this, he needs to back his corner or his tank all the way up into A5 and put the back of his tank up against him. And even then, I doubt that it'll happen because they have over a minute left to work him out. Someone can eat the shell and they can trade it out, but this is not a very survivable situation where he is right now.
Oh, he's done.
He's tracked. And that's going to be photo finish from the 5-line pop-up and actually get a shot onto his lower plate. And that makes it 3-1 in favor of Eclipse.
All right, so this is an important point in the series where Eclipse is now 3-1. They're the team that is expected to win the series 5 to possibly 1 or 2. Valence is a newer team to the league. They've been struggling to find their place, and it hasn't been something that they haven't made progress that's lacking. They've done a good job. They're getting a B right now, I'd say, improvements there. They're not up to the level of proficiency that a team like Eclipse or Apex is expected to have. They don't have that. They don't have all of the same benefits that they would have to be there. So what they're trying to do now is figure out their strategies, their style, how they fit into this, and how they're going to win. Against Eclipse, I have to say, Valence is putting up a good fight. Every single battle, every single time you see tanks squaring off, I can see players from both sides putting up about the same level, a very comparable level of skill.
Well,
so
the biggest thing...
It's not individuals.
The biggest thing to notice from Eclipse right here is what's been killing them so far this season is that second layer of play, the late game, the after the initial engagement, how to clean things up, how to close matches down. And so far today, we're seeing Tigers, it looks like, kind of really coordinate there for Eclipse because look at how they broke that down. They found the isolations, they got their tanks together, and it was near perfect coordination to how to break this defense that was left from Valence.
And you point all of that at Tigers, right? You said
that sort of coordination.
That's where it's coming from. Putting someone back in charge, putting someone back in the driver's seat, giving the team more focus. And yes, you still have good communication. Maybe the time when Tigers wasn't calling was actually a point where the rest of the team kind of grew in a way. But put Tigers back in, yes, he's getting the caller's curse. He gets wiped out early on, able to deal 757. His focus is split, of course. Everyone knows about the caller's curse, of course, which is if you're in charge of calling the battle, very likely you're going to die first, or you're going to die horribly. You're going to deal no damage. You're going to fall off a cliff. Something's horrible is going to happen to you. Usually that's what happens, right? You're used to that, aren't you? You're a battle caller yourself.
Yeah, well, the biggest problem I see here really is after the last match day, Tigers put up the second most fantasy points out of anyone in the league, 491 fantasy.
Well, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that
no, but this is
it's
my point.
Typical.
It's typical, and this is my point. This is why he's a risky fantasy pick, because sometimes callers have this little thing they like to do where they have a brawl start, and then they say, hey, look, if I drive over here, I'm going to have clean shots, and no one's going to be there, and they put up a ton of points. And that's what Tigers did all last match day.
They're like, if I play this strategy and I place myself here, I'm going to
have
reap
shots
the damage.
for days and farm. And
but I also have the added benefit of being able to observe my team while I'm making the call and then make a more informed decision.
And
right?
you also have the ability to get out and say, scout for yourself. You know exactly what information you want. And the problem is sometimes you're not the best scout player, and you get out there and you find yourself getting completely obliterated off the face of the earth and do 0 points like we've seen Tigers do. So, rip my fantasy points.
On that note, as a scout caller in the past, that just happens a lot. If you're scouting and you're trying to call for your team, there's going to be times where you don't pick up on some subtlety because your focus is elsewhere. And guess what? You die in the opening scout.
Well, that's my point. Is scouting is one of those things where it's a detail-oriented. You have to really focus in on what you're going to do, your pathing, where different people can get shots on you. And sometimes as a caller, you're more focused on getting the information than making sure you stay alive.
All right, so actually I want to jump in right here. I'm being told that we have some replays from our non-broadcasted matches. Let's bring you those highlights right now, if we can. And actually, I'm going to look at the scores. Top Tier versus Apex is underway. And to start off the series, I'm checking the scores. Top Tier versus Apex. Apex is currently up 3-0. So they start off on Himmelsdorf. Apex is going to be able to hold this.
This could be Apex's third 5-0 victory in a row.
Possibly. And their wins are, both of them on Himmelsdorf are with 3 minutes and some change for their victories. So not bad play for Himmelsdorf. And then on when it comes down to Prokhorovka, they're going to move to in just a moment. They're able to actually pick up that win in about 6 minutes. So yeah, Apex looking dominant again, top tier. Well, you can always try and put up a fight, but this is Apex.
Well, and look at this. They're actually down on HP right now, and the fact that they're able to find a way to turn this around is almost mind-blowing, because that's something that Eclipse or Apex did last season.
It's about that focus fire, and you're seeing it come into play. Split damage on the God Emperor and External. That's focus fire not coming from top tier in that instance, and they could have mitigated some of the damage we saw
how does Brett live through this? How? He's sitting there on 151 HP, and he manages to get 2 more shots off and get out of that little cubby before anyone kills him.
Exactly.
What is this?
That's top tier, I think, losing a little focus. They're up against Apex, a team which is quite intimidating. So I can imagine that it's going to be more difficult to get those kills than you would think. You would expect one of your teammates to get a kill here or there. It's a common thing. You're just not expecting that those 50 Bs are going to position themselves just so that this one bounce here, one bounce there, and IS-7 rolls past us. I'm not going to have to worry about it. Everyone else on my team should have the kill. And then another guy on your team goes, oh, someone else is going to have the kill.
Everyone's going to assume someone else has the kill. I believe it's the bystander effect. They just assume someone else will do something about it. And in this case, they didn't.
Yeah, and that's something you have to drill into your players.
And that very well may have cost them that game, because he managed to get off 2 more shots. He put them into the other 50B. I'm trying to remember who that was. I believe it was Exits. And that was pretty much Exits' doom right there. He went down, and that may have been just enough to turn that battle around.
Exactly. So now let's get back on track with Eclipse versus Valence here. We are in battle number 5 as we move on to Prokhorovka. Check it out.
Prokhorovka, one of the first maps in the game. Teams start at the regular spawn points as they do in standard battles. Bases are separated from each other by the railway, so the defending team has to choose whether to send their vehicles to the left side, playing them in the centre, or to the right of the railway, occupying the hill and a part of the village. The attacking team usually attacks the first base. However, the teams often go for face-to-face confrontations, 7-on-7, in the hilly terrain at the centre. That's why both teams frequently use vehicles with good gun depression angles and sturdy turrets.
And here we go into battle number 5. We are moving on to Prokhorovka Eclipse, 2 113s, 3 Batchets, an STRV 103B, and an RU 251. Meanwhile, Valence, an IS-7, a Kronwagen, a Batchat, a 430, a TVP, a Grill 15, and an RU 251. I'm really wondering if Valence's caller keeps just saying, all right, guys, ready up whatever you want to play, and let's see what happens, because I haven't seen... They just bring one of everything, and if you look at it, they bring one tank that can do one thing well in each case. Static has the camo and the DPM. Zone Delta has raw burst. Spooky has the scouting. G-Forcer has the turret armor and the gun depression.
It's 2 schools of thought, right? So there's a school of thought of picking your standardized tanks, making everyone play them, and saying that I've picked the most optimal tank for the situations I plan to run into. It's the most flexible. It'll fit the situation well enough that it could do the job, right? And then the other side of that is, I'm going to pick specific tanks that my players know personally, that they are personally very, very good at, and that work in the situations I'm going to put them in quite specifically.
And look at this. Sorry to cut you off. Look at this play out of Valence, bringing the grill to the middle ridge right out of the start. That is a bold play.
Yeah, bold is one word for it. Maybe crazy is another one, depending on how it works out.
Well,
of course.
Like I was saying earlier, Valence have even said that Viral has a tendency to YOLO.
Viral has a tendency to YOLO. It looks like Valence altogether is about to YOLO. Look at the way that all these mediums are milling about, right? Everyone just looked like they were about to go, okay, guys, we're going over, right? We're gonna attack them, right? We're taking the fight right to eClipse. And then someone says, no. Go to the back of the map, and you wait. But I like the response. I like this. eClipse responds quickly. They're going to push their 113 all the way up the one line and take control of the west while Valence gets out of there and gets over to the track side.
I like this position coming out of T1 Diabetic and the S-Tank right now.
Look at photo finish, though. Takes half of his hit points from that grill. Viral gets into position over an Alpha 6, and he's able to punish Photo for getting into his forward spotting position. Now, Photo finished in a 113. The spotting... I'm not much of a 113 player myself. How's the spotting on a 113? Vision range?
I believe it's 400 meters like most of the other heavy tanks. But look at this position real quick out of T1 Diabetic.
Yes.
This is the spot we see Grills play, and instead they have this S-Tank in the siege mode sitting here where he can get clean shots towards the 6th line either in the north or in the middle, and he has this raw rate of fire. Look at how fast he's firing.
Oh, look at that.
5-second
Tigers
reload.
at the same time and Vetro. So 3 angles onto Fulcrus, and he's going to take damage one way or another.
Look at all these shots that he can get. He's put out so much damage already.
Yeah, someone needs to take down the buildings in the middle of the map, I think. That would open up some angles for T1 to get shots onto Fulcrus.
Yep, I'd have to double check on the 113 spotting range, but I believe default it's either 380 or 400. I'm pretty sure it's 400 because most of the tier 10 heavy tanks these days all have 400 base view range.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I always get mixed up with the Russians because it changes around so much. German tanks and Americans, you can always depend on good visibility, but...
Well, and the thing is actually the American medium, the M48 Patton, that has the best view range in the game at the moment, still has 420 meters of view range base without any equipment.
Yeah, and that's why it used to be a strong choice, but
well, also
unfortunately
it used to be the king of right click, left click. You right click, you auto aim, and then you fire. The shell velocity would take care of everything else. It got nerfed a little bit, balanced out a little bit, and it's kind of in a place right now where it's a tank that kind of doesn't have much of an identity.
Yeah, it doesn't fit into the meta quite so well right now, but it's probably due more to a lack of mobility that's kind of that's sought out in medium tanks.
It's very similar to the E50M. It's one of those tanks where it's, I don't want to say a master of none, but can kind of do everything decently because
it's like jack of all trades, master of
there
none.
We go. That's
but the thing is, the real saying in my mind is jack of all trades, master of none, but still better than master of one.
This is true. Like the E50M, though, it can kind of be a heavy tank. It can square up when it needs to, but its turret armor is kind of soft. Its gun hits for 390, so it hits harder than most mediums, but it has worse DPM. It's kind of the same thing with the Patton. It has great shell velocity, good view range, but the mobility is pretty meh.
And it's
the turret armor is not great. It's supposed to have some frontal armor, but it can't really work a ridgeline because it's soft. It has the giant cupola on top. So it just doesn't have a whole lot of options.
Yeah, and more likely you're going to bring some other choices, and the style of play that we see doesn't really play into that. You could find a way of putting one on the battlefield, but those strategies aren't tested or proven. No one's spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to make the Patton work specifically. They just decide, let's do an active scout. Active scouts are a little bit more reliable. I can apply active scouts to more parts of the map. Whereas a passive or slower medium scout, like something like an American tank, is generally going to be plopped down in one spot and expected to stay there for the whole duration.
And
which then now you can bring Kronwagens to do that if you like.
And it looks like eClipse are expecting some sort of rotate out of Valence because they've set up with this crossfire in the south. They're more worried about the south than the north cap. So it looks like even though they're attacking, they're waiting for some sort of rotation out of Valence to maybe get an extra tank down.
Yeah, Eclipse is certainly just waiting, trying to find damage right now. They're only probably going to move, I expect, if we see cap pressure from Valence, right? Once that 2 cap starts, we'll see Eclipse move. Their tanks will close in from the west. Now, the Kronwagen that's pinned, this is something I'm worried about. Why is G-Forcer currently in Bravo 5? Why is he on the west side of the tracks?
Because what he's going to do is he's going to have eyes on the cap plus resets. Yeah, once again, we've talked about this Kronwagen a bunch this match already.
Yeah, I'm just worried because it seems like something that can be countered out.
But look at the crossfire that they have set up. They have tanks along the middle and in the north. They have the 430 and the grill up in the north to where they can cover him, plus this I-7, the Batshot, and the TVP in the middle. So they can sit here and get covering shots as they need.
Yeah, and there's the fire I was looking for. Master Pupil, though, taking so much in order to try and get to a position where he can deal with G-Forcer. That's not going to happen. That I think this is a mistake right now from eClipse. They may have gotten a little over-aggressive. Maybe the timing's off, whatever you want to call it, but this is going to cost them dearly. They do kill Fulcrus. They do kill G-Forcer. They lose Master Pupil. And right now...
They're actually looking fairly good right now. Outside of Exo having a dead driver and losing Master Pupil, they took down both Fulcrus and G-Forcer, and they put Zone Delta down to a one-shot.
And I really thought the response from Valence was going to be stronger there. Excuse me. I was really expecting Static to kind of deal more damage, Spooky to get into position, Viral being in the back like he was. I didn't see that coming. I actually expected to see Valence tanks get up onto the tracks and fire onto the tanks that are pressuring their ally. It kind of felt like Valence left G-Forcer out to dry.
It definitely felt like that to a certain extent, but I think that was more eClipse understanding how to break this turtle and how to get tanks out of here. They understood that they were going to have to make a trade, so they offered a trade that was favorable to them. It was essentially a 2-for-1. They realized, all right, we're going to throw the HP and the tank away of Master Pupil. We're going to put him up in front. He's going to draw a lot of fire, but while we're doing that, that means they're not going to be shooting at our other tanks that they pushed in to kill G-Forcer.
Exactly. Now, right at this time, 3 tanks are on cap from eClipse. Urtai in the south is moving around to try and get the reset. He's spotted. He spots the cap, fires, misses, and the return fire does not connect. Urtai still healthy, able to look for those resets and misses his second one. At the same time, Static goes down in exchange for Exo.
Vetro getting his shots off.
And that's it, GG.
Cap out.
Well played.
And that is going to be eClipse walking away with the victory on Prokhorovka. Now we still have one more round on Prok. Now another thing to remember here is Prokhorovka was a map that eClipse has always been comfortable on, especially under Pupil. Then they moved to Wallhacks Calling for a little while, and it was a map that they were still good on, but they didn't have that same sort of staple offense and defense on. They lost it a couple of times versus Apex.
Yeah.
And it kind of lost that identity. And now I'm kind of wondering, with Tigers back in here, this is one of those maps that I think he really has down and understands those rotations on. And I think they just showed it right there.
Yeah, let's kind of recap some of this, actually, and just go back through the battle step by step, because I think there are some important lessons to be learned. I think Valence going to the middle and trying to pressure early on was a half measure. Very often trying to go to the middle and get early damage, it needs to be a very decisive and well-planned action. I think Valence tried to throw that one out there, and I don't think everyone was quite prepared to execute. They didn't understand what their opponent, they didn't have an idea in mind of what their opponent was going to be doing and how they were going to deal with that. They just kind of, it seemed like, let's go to the middle, let's try and deal damage, see what happens, and go from there. I did feel like eClipse was on top of it. I feel like they understood what their opponent was going for every moment of the way, and look at the damage. Got top damage right there from X.
Tigers putting up 77 fantasy points. Most of that has to be from Cap, because he didn't do a lot of damage.
I will check on that one. We've got 46 capture points from Tigers, and 661 spotting damage. He's only blocked 1 shell with his armor. So 7 hits, 3 penetrations. He wasn't able to be as effective as he liked. I think he might be getting credit for track shots.
Track shots. Well, that would be under assistant damage. I think it's mostly the cap pressure there, because they ended up capping out and winning. So another thing to look at here is, we were talking earlier about Tigers coming back into the lineup.
Yeah.
The one thing that I'm seeing a lot out of them right now, particularly this one match, as opposed to the matches previous from eClipse, is notice that they've always been good in the brawls. The brawls throughout the season, they've been pretty good at. Their focus fire is pretty good. The thing that they've really been struggling at, like I said, is the late game, in that what I call puzzle cracking, essentially. When you see a defense, you see something in front of you, and you have to figure out how to break it.
Yeah,
when you have the time to work things. And I really, truly believe it's the decision-making out of Tigers saying, look at this, we do this, all right, so this is how we break it and go for it. And this is the second time tonight where we've seen them just perfectly execute essentially a crack on a defense. They said, all right, we're going to put Pupil up in the middle, we're going to draw some fire, and the rest of these tanks are going to go make sure that Krondragon dies, and we're going to cap out from there, because we'll be in a good position from that point on.
Yeah, you see the layout of your opponent, you know what's going on, you could put the pieces together, you can see the context clues, and you understand your response already. It's like understanding a math formula. Once you've memorized it, really at that point it's about plugging in the numbers, right?
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of numbers, let's go ahead and take a look at the tanks that these guys brought. eClipse, an IS-7, 4 Batchets, a 140, and an RU-251. Valence, an IS-7, 3 Batchets, a 430, a Grill, and an M4043?
What's so confusing about that?
It's an interesting tank to bring on offense.
I don't say interesting. Why? Why on offense? I like Artie.
Artie,
I'm sorry, I actually shouldn't say that because now the community is going to hate me forever, but as a scout player, I like Artie.
it is good at breaking turtles if the other team is going to play passive and in spots where you can light constantly. But look at the lineup. The only tank that says the eClipse are going to sit still with right now is that IS-7.
But I pose you this question. What happens if you get a track situation where you've got a split from the east to the west on the tracks, where one team is east, one team is west? That M4043 is one of the most ideal tanks if you want to dig your opponent out of the tracks, because they're going to have to press up against the tracks in order.
I would agree, but it doesn't look like eClipse have any little
is this a counterplay?
intention of playing this slow.
This is probably going to turn out to be a counterplay. Eclipse's current layout is west side, and the current spread, that says I'm going to be attacking shortly, doesn't it? That says I'm going to move up in a moment. Oh, and a strong play coming out of Valence. Looks like they were going to go for an ambush onto an IS-7 in the middle with 3 bat shots early on. Looks like they're going to abort after not spotting anything. And
this grill needs to be careful. And Volker snaps the shot off, doesn't get a connection, but this grill,
shot's going
viral.
over.
He's getting kind of aggressive. Oh, he's turned around and bailed out now, which is smart. Because I don't think they realized that Dark God Zim sitting in that bush right in front of him. If Viral had gotten spotted, there's 3 bat shots aimed straight down that line.
Oh, yeah. But luckily for Viral, in the Grill 15, where he was a defilade, just low enough that it's actually difficult to get a shot right on target. He's not completely exposed. Mostly
his turret's still exposed,
but
and
it's a thin shot.
It's still a grill turret, which means you hit it pretty much anywhere, and it's going to be a penetrating shot.
But at that range, it's about hitting it at all.
You have 3 bat shots and a 140 sitting there.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that you're not going to get... Just like with the situation we saw the other day in the south, firing from the middle of the
accuracy
map.
by volume.
Yes. You try and just put up volume of fire, and you hope that you hit things. That is...
Let's put it to you this way. All right, you have 3 bat shots. That's 5 shots each, 15 shots.
Yes.
If they each make 2 out of 5, which is the ratio you said is acceptable, 2 out of 5, that's still 6 shots. That's 2,000 damage. At
500 meters, assuming that you can get, of course, all shots on target all the time. So if you don't have to move, you don't have to shift position, that tank never leaves your range of vision, then yeah, that's what you're supposed to get. I don't think that was what we were probably going to see really then. I think Viral was a little too far away, draw distance for like half of those bat shots.
Oh, and this rotation, are they just going to go for it? Are they just going to go up and over? Vetro's out in the field.
Maybe. That seems a bit risky. Although if they went for it right now, if Valence went up and over, no, it's not going to work. Vetro's just far enough away that he could be safe. He's probably not going to take anything. And this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the battle, right? East side, west side.
Yeah, well, one thing, I want to go back for 1 second here. I just realized that I can't math. 6 shots out of a bat shot is actually going to be 2,400 damage, not 2,000. That's 5 shots. Math is a little bit hard today, but I digress. I agree to a certain extent. However, if you look at the way that they're set up right now, the grill up on the hill, the artillery in the backfield, they don't have any eyes in the backfield. That grill, if he gets spotted up on that hill, depending on how many guns, he doesn't have any cover to go to, really, where he's sitting. So he could get picked off from there pretty easily if they can get eyes back there. And this artillery is going to need to land some big shots right now to prove that it was worth bringing it.
Yeah, that's actually the big question is, will it be worth it? Shot out, 428, on to photo finish. That was a low probability connection right there, but does manage to make it. Now Viral in the grill is taking damage on the hill, it looks
and
like.
Viral like I said, he got spotted. He doesn't have anywhere to go, so he's having to run forward and get out of there. And now Zone Delta is left against the RU-251 of Dark God Zim and Tigers in the bat chat.
Yeah, he's going to need to find a way of supporting him, because if Zone Delta gets pinched, that's going to be the first domino to fall. You need to hold the south. If you lose it, as Valence, that almost everything's going to follow, and that's going to be it. The pinch onto Zone Delta, Master Pupil from the middle, and from the south, Dark God Zim and Tigers, they take him down. First tier 8, and next, looks like Spooky is on the chopping block.
Photo finish works an angle underneath the train track into the back of G-Forcer there.
On Static,
what a shot that was.
Static just took one to the back of his turret. So now Valence is... Every tank is low health in the north.
They are just bleeding HP.
It's over, dude. Eclipse should be able to push over in just a second and clean this one up. I don't think they would mess it up. It should be fairly easy to execute. A little costly, maybe, but ultimately Eclipse should be able to close this one out in just a moment. And that's strong play by eClipse. I have to say, I appreciate what Valence has been going for in this, but it is nice to see eClipse back on top.
A lot of individual mistakes definitely cost Valence some games here. As Exo pokes up and finds Spooky isolated. Vetro goes over and finds Static. Dark God Zim found the artillery in the backfield. Now it is a 3v7. It's about to be a 7-0 sweep for Eclipse.
And they could ace him. On the final battle, we might have an ace where every single tank from Eclipse is alive, which would be a nice cherry on top for them because they've had such a rough time these past few weeks. They're due for a real win like this. Something that says, this is what Eclipse was last season. We're still that good.
Oh, no ace for them. Viral takes down Vetro.
And they're going to lose out on that ace. They could have used that. That would have been beautiful. I jinxed them, though. Caster curse.
And Eclipse says, Apex, Dare Rising, remember us? We're still here. We're still a thing. And they take the win 5-1. Over Valence.
All right, I think I can put an X on the box and say Eclipse is back on the map. We needed to see them pick up a win, a real win like this.
This was convincing.
Yes,
this was through and through convincing.
There's zero doubt that they were better prepared than their opponent. That they just were more organized and on every single level. I think Eclipse was superior to Valence
now,
here today.
If we had some criticism, the one thing I would say is, the part where they excelled tonight was the breaking down of defenses and looking at things where they get slow. If you match them up versus Apex right now, especially under Wallhacks, the one thing that Wallhacks does very well is he is very fluid in his calling and his game plan. And if they make Eclipse uncomfortable and they keep that sort of fluid, aggressive gameplay up, I still think that Apex has Eclipse's number.
Yeah, because Eclipse is very rigid. It appears as though they're very methodical.
They are very decisive when they have time to plan it. They're a team that can coordinate something and do it very well.
Yeah,
when they have time. Apex, on the other hand, they don't need that same amount of time. They're very fluid. They very get up and go. And they can make things happen in their favor very quickly, which is what's going to cost Eclipse points in the long run.
All right, now let's look at that post-battle stats. Tigers, Vetro, T1 Diabetic, and Master Pupil, all top fantasy picks performed. Everyone else, well, I'm sorry if you picked a Valence player because those guys got torn.
Even Spooky, who's normally so good in the fantasy points, just not really able to be a factor tonight. Just got shut down.
Eclipse dominated Valence at the end of this. I think that Valence couldn't keep up the energy and the momentum. Now the post-match stats.
Vetro
finish, though.
343. I like that. However, Tigers isn't on the first page. And he's going to be almost sub 200 points.
Oh, yeah, because it's early on.
277. Okay, so he's not that bad off, but
he doesn't put up great damage in the whole
I kind of regret picking him right now, but I think in the long run, I think that'll pay off.
It's okay. It's not bad. He didn't disappoint. You talked about him being one of those players that performs incredibly well or kind of flops. I don't think that's bad either.
It comes down to him being a caller and positioning. It's either it's feast or famine essentially for a caller. They're gonna put themselves in a position where they can just shot after shot after shot and put up a lot of damage. This is what we saw him do 2 seasons ago. Or it's going to be, I'm going to drive out in front, spot for everyone, or be a passive scout tank in a bush somewhere, not really do a whole lot, which if you're a fantasy player, that's not what you want to see.
No, not at all. I think I'm happy with what I got from Tigers today. I think that this whole match was a refresher for Eclipse. This was them getting back on top. Valence played well.
Yep, well, I'm told that we actually have a winner interview right now with, I believe, Master Pupil.
Welcome back to the show, Master Pupil. Let's talk about that match and what it means for your team. Because compared to what we've seen in the past 4 match days, right? Tonight looked sharp. It looked tight. You guys looked organized. It looked like you're one step ahead of your opponent, and every single time it looked like Eclipse knew exactly what they wanted to do next. What was going on? Break it down for me.
Well, I mean, we were a lot more focused tonight. We were the comms were nice, calm, collected. We had Tigers for the decisive calls. We didn't have any throws tonight, which is very good. It's very refreshing. And, Valence played really well, but we just kind of were able to predict what they were going to do and when they were going to do it. Like, for example, their Himmels defense, we we predicted that they were going to go down the 1-2. I'm not saying we have any wall hacks or anything.
No, he's on Apex now.
Yeah. But, we just kind of predicted them, even though they played pretty well tonight.
Okay, so, yeah, it seemed like, although at the very, very start, Cliff, battle number 1, that didn't go your way, and that was actually a little confusing. Were you guys just trying to get used to it or get into the groove at that point, or was that Valence coming out kind of swaying?
Well, I mean, the STRV ended up not being very useful. That strat relies on the STRV to bully the tanks on the hill, off the hill. So because they were able to bully our tanks on the hill and push ours off, they were able to win. And that's basically what it came down to. Me and Tigers had to push the 1-2. or the 3-4 by the donut to try and get shots. I took a big shot from the 49, so we were down HP early on, but yeah.
Okay, my only question here comes down to your Himmelsdorf defense. You guys rotated through the south pretty early. How much intel did you guys have on there? Because to me it looked like it was a blind push that just happened to pay off.
I mean, it wasn't really blind. We had a couple of spots. We kind of predicted, again, like what they were going to do. We took a bit of a chance having some people push down south. I'm not exactly sure everything that happened. I was busy trying to run from 4 autoloaders. So,
oh, yeah, you were a bit distracted at the time, yeah.
Yeah, I was distracted. So I'm not really sure how we ended up pushing, but, it ended up working. I don't think it was all that blind, but yeah, it ended up working.
I think that's actually an interesting point to note. You guys seem to be able to piece together Valence's layouts and their tactical plays by only a few key spotted tanks. Is that kind of was that Tigers most of the time, just saying, I know the answer, let's do this? Or what was that dialogue like on your team?
Combination of Zim and Tigers, plus, we've had experience. This is our 3rd season as a team. Like everybody, Foda's even played even longer than that, same as Zim, we had the experience. We just kind of figured what they were going to do, watching replays and stuff like that. We just, we kind of pieced it all together and it ended up working out for us.
Doing your homework. All right. Well, Master People, thank you for jumping back on for this post-match interview. It was very insightful, actually. Thank you so much.
No problem.
We'll see you on the battlefield next time.
Yep, see ya.
See ya. Well, I like that a lot. Master